Let's start to talk about a team that should do some damage this spring, yesterday aside, and that is the New York Knicks. And joining us right now is one of the best people to have on to talk about this basketball team, CP the Franchise, who has the biggest Knicks channel on YouTube, over 80,000 subscribers, plus you can hear him on SiriusXM NBA Radio, and he's with us now on the Jake Asman Show. CP, thanks for coming on tonight, my friend. How are you?
Jake, always a pleasure to be on with you, and with 30 minutes left in the show, I'm kind of in the closer role, man. So I'll be Mariano with you tonight, man.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. I love that. So, I mean, let's start with just yesterday in particular, CP. Knicks came in winners of 4 in a row. Do you put any stock in a loss to a bad Utah team, or is that just, a bad game among the 82 games every team's going to play?
I do, because the defensive woes for this team, especially with this starting five, Jake, is becoming a trend. Tom Thibodeau has always gone on record as saying, who a team is within 15 to 20 games into a season. And while this Knicks team is shorthanded, they do need some reinforcements off the bench. There's a lot of defensive woes within this starting five that the Knicks should be concerned about. And so last night was a tough loss in Utah. This Knicks team, coming in on 2 days rest, really got pushed around from the opening tip by a Jazz team that had only 3 wins going into the night. I mean, the Jazz shot 50% from the field, 53% from 3. The Knicks really just offered little to no resistance all night.
What is the biggest issue for this team defensively? Is it just lack of chemistry so far with the new players added to the lineup, or is it something bigger?
Chemistry is certainly one. Talking to a lot of former players, they always will tell you that chemistry takes time. It takes time to get on the same page, especially defensively. You need to be communicating effectively, making sure guys are in the right spots and rotating well. But it's also effort. And a lot of times, especially on the perimeter, this Knicks team is just getting beat. I mean, they're giving up 27 points per game on average to opposing shooting guards. And when things break down at the point of attack, usually on the perimeter, it puts a lot of pressure on Karl-Anthony Towns, who's really not known to be an elite rim protector. And so across the board, the Knicks are kind of getting pummeled here. Teams are gashing them from three-point land as well, especially when they force this Knicks team to collapse and rotate. And so you have some issues there, whether it's, from an effort standpoint, from a chemistry standpoint, and then individual effort, things just have to be better.
CP the Franchise, creator of KnicksFanTV, with us here on the Jake Asman Show on ESPN New York. Karl-Anthony Towns, CP, that was the big move the Knicks made, of course, this offseason, him and Mikal Bridges, and we'll get into him after I ask you about Cat. What have you made of Cat's performance so far through the start of the year? Has he been what you thought? Give us the breakdown early on here watching Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, offensively as advertised. This Knicks team has not seen this type of talent from the center position, no question, since Patrick Ewing. I mean, 23 points per game for Towns, almost 11 rebounds, allowing the Knicks to maintain their rebounding edge. But he's almost 50-40-90 when you factor in 52% field goal percentage, 40% from 3, and then almost 84% from the charity stripe. His passing, I think, has been an underrated trait in his offense, and the Knicks need to tap into more. And then defensively, it's just a mixed bag. Some nights he's going to give you a bit better effort, but other nights, teams are really going right at him. And so it presents a conundrum from Tom Thibodeau and this Knicks team going forward, that once they get reinforcements back, how will this starting five look, and ultimately how will this rotation look? Will they opt to go for more defense over offense, which Towns is certainly spearheading?
How about Mikal Bridges, the other big move Leon Rose in the front office made this offseason? It feels like at times he's looked like the Bridges we saw in Phoenix and in Brooklyn, and other times he looks like he's lost out there. Is that your sense watching him?
Absolutely. Another mixed bag, Jake. He had been playing a lot better coming into the Jazz game, especially offensively. But in that Jazz game, you essentially had Mikal Bridges get benched in their loss to Utah on Saturday night in favor of Campaign, who, and give credit to Campaign, he's been playing very well off that Knick bench. But the reason why he got those minutes over Mikal Bridges in crunch time was because he was leading the way defensively, an area where Mikal Bridges is being relied upon based on the package that the Knicks traded for. And also, the Knicks truly need that, to make the starting five what it's truly meant to be. And so he's got to step it up, man. He's been lost defensively, and offensively, it's been a mixed bag. Since he's changed his shot, some nights he's been good, and then other nights he's been outright woeful. He went 1 for 7 from 3 in the loss on Saturday night to the Utah Jazz. So tough start so far for Mikal Bridges, but the Knicks have to make sure that his confidence is sky high because you can't afford to lose it.
You brought up the bench for the Knicks. Obviously, without Mitchell Robinson, that's a big blow. We knew that coming into the season. Are there any names out there that Knicks fans should be paying attention to that Leon Rose and company can potentially add to that bench unit, or is this something that it might take a while, like trade deadline, buyouts, and that type of thing for that area of the team to be improved?
I think they're first going to look within because they are so cash-strapped and leery of the NBA second apron, which will hamstring their ability to make moves in the future. I think the Knicks have to first search from within for improvement. And that means, number one, Precious Achiuwa has to come back. He's been practicing with the team out west, and hopefully they get him back. Maybe it's Monday against Denver or Wednesday against Dallas. Getting Miles McBride back. Miles McBride, another good guard, two-way player, and good shooter who's been dealing with some patella soreness, and they said he's close to being back. And then lastly and most importantly, man, it's getting Mitchell Robinson back. Because as we talked about with Karl Anthony Towns and the Knicks defense in the paint, getting bullied around by the Utah Jazz front line last night, the Knicks desperately need Mitchell Robinson back healthy and in shape, whether that's, later in December, is it January or closer to the All-Star break. They hopefully need to get Mitchell Robinson back to help shore up that defense. And then from there, by the time the trade deadline comes, could they look to make a move on the margins? I think it's tough to see because right now front court depth is an area of need, but it's also an area contractually where it allows them to make a trade. So it's kind of, cutting off your nose to spite your face in a way if you're going to have to trade either Precious Achiuwa or Mitchell Robinson to try to get an upgrade here for the rest of the team.
CP the Franchise with us here on ESPN New York and the ESPN New York app. Jake Asman with you till 8 o'clock tonight, talking about the Knicks because the state of New York football is a disaster. So let's talk about a team.
Oh, disaster.
I know you're a Giants fan, CP. Any thoughts on your team today? My God.
I can't even say Rome is burning because they haven't been an empire in ever. But it's disheartening. It's tough to see what happened with Daniel Jones, and even though he was woeful with this team, obviously as a professional, it's a tough business, and so seeing him get cut wasn't easy. But then hearing Malik Neighbors' comments just ripping into this team and this coaching staff, you have a premier wide receiver that you picked up in the first round, and it seems like this is, Odell Beckham, Kadarius Toney all over again, man. So if the Giants aren't careful, he's going to be the next diva wide receiver who's going to be packing his bags, and they got to start all over again.
It's unbelievable. Getting back to the Knicks here, when you look at them in comparison to the other teams in the East, how do you view where the Knicks stack up, right? We know Boston's Boston. They're the defending champs. Cleveland got off to this historic start. But some of the other teams in the East, what have you made of how they done in comparison to what you've seen from this Knicks team?
Yeah, one thing about this Knicks team is that as they struggle for consistency at 9-7, a glimmer of hope is that they're only one of 4 teams in the East that are above 500. Right. The East has been a disaster. When you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, who they're playing a little bit better, but shot out the gates a bit slow. Forget about the 76ers. They have all but imploded. Magic are playing well without Paolo Banchero. So, the Knicks have a chance here to remain competitive in a lackluster East. But, the cream of the crop right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers, 16-1, very impressive. The Knicks won't be able to beat those teams or that team or the Boston Celtics if they don't get their defense together. So, look, it's 16 games in is the good news. They have some time to get some guys back on their bench and shore up their bench. And also they have some time to really get their defense together. They can sleepwalk into 130 points in a given night. That's not the issue. It's the defense that the Knicks really have to shore up. So they have some time to do that.
Knicks taking on the Nuggets tomorrow night, their next game, as the out west road trip continues for New York. CP, really appreciate it, my friend. Thanks for hopping on tonight.
Jake, anytime, man. Keep up the great work, man. You're doing the damn thing out here in New York, man. Proud to have you representing us out here.